All right, so before we talk about synthetic division, I'm going to do two other division things before we do the synthetic. Synthetic division sounds scary. The word synthetic itself sounds a little weird, but it's going to be a lot easier way, less cumbersome way to do long division. Let's go way back in time to, I don't know, third grade maybe. I don't know when you learn long division. When's the first time you learned long division? You never learned long division? Okay, I'm trying to, there's a division problem that I always do, and I forget which, let me just do, trying to think of one. What do I always do? I always do this one. I didn't write this down. I was just thought I would remember it. Because when I taught college algebra, I always did this one. Let's do 1/8. Okay, what if I divided 1 divided by 8? All right. So when you're a little kid, you did this thing, didn't you? Remember this? Okay. Which one? I call this the box. Here's the way I used to teach it. What goes in the box? The top goes in the what? In the box. Okay. So I think a box top. Okay. That's how I taught the kids when I first, when I taught them how to do long division. All right. I call it top box, box top. Okay. So that goes inside there. So obviously what goes outside here? The 8. Okay. So what do we do? Put a decimal, right? Because we got some other numbers here. What are we going to put? Put a 0. All right. And I'm not sure how many zeros I'm going to need, so I'll just go one at a time. Is that all right? So what do? Take that decimal, bring it up here. We're really not going to have to do that decimal part for what we're eventually going to do, but that's how we do long division. All I'm trying to do is to remind you how to do long division, all right, with just basic numbers. So what do? You go 8 divides into 10 how many times? Now, it doesn't go even, but it goes one time, right? Would you agree? All right, so I'm kind of going 10 divided by 8, or you could say, how many times does 8 divide evenly, or not evenly, sorry. How many times does 8 divide into 10? Just one time, all right? So what do we do with that? What do we do with that 1 and that 8 right there? We multiply, that's right, okay? So 1 times 8 is 8, but then what do we do here? We subtract, don't we? Is it coming back to you? Okay. Again, it was probably early in elementary school, middle elementary school, you probably did this. Then what do you do with these? You subtract. So what's that going to be? 10 minus 8 is 2. All right, are we done? No, put another 0 there, bring that down, okay, right here, and then we do the same routine over again, okay, until it either stops, it repeats, or it just keeps on going into crazy numbers. Now, if they were just regular fractions, they will eventually stop. But anyway, let's do this. So 8 divided into 20. How many times is 8 divided into 20? 2 times. So you put a 2 here. Then we do the same routine. 2 times 8 is 16. We subtract a 16, bring this down. That's a 4. And we bring this all the way down. Because 8 does not divide into 4, does it? So we go bring this down right there. Look at this. 8. Does it go into 40? Yeah, it goes exactly 5 times, doesn't it? All right, so I can actually stop. Okay, that's a 0. So what's my remainder? My remainder technically is a what? Is a 0, okay? Now, what we're going to be doing in this lesson, the remainder is very, very important, okay? And having a 0 remainder is very, very important. We're not really going to get into that today. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get into that a little bit. But I just wanted to show you how to do long division. Remember that? Okay. With that in mind, that kind of is in your head. What we're going to do now is we're going to do long division with polynomials. So what if I said to divide, watch this, x cubed minus x squared plus 2. What if I asked you to take that and divide it by x plus 1? You ever seen anything like that? Some of you have, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what background you have. But this is what we're going to do. So we're actually going to do this as a long division problem. Okay? Now, if I say this divided by this, which one's on the top? Look, if I said 1 let's do this. If I said 1 divided by 8, what is it? 1 divided by 8. So which one's on the top? This one right here, okay? So where does that go here? It goes in the box. You got it? Box top. Okay. So that's the top one. And you could have written it like x cubed minus x squared plus 2 over x plus 1. Could have done that, right? But sometimes you'll see it like this as well. I think you have an example where you see it like that. That's why I decided to do it like this. So what goes in here? X cubed minus what? X squared. Now, you got to be very careful. Now, listen to this part. Do you see how there's a gap between x squared and 2? I got x cubed, x squared. What am I missing? I'm missing an x, aren't I? Okay, x to the first. So I got to take that in consideration. All right, so what do you think I'm going to put in? I can't just put an x squared in there. I don't know if it's going to be a 2x squared, or sorry, a 2x or a 1x or a 3x. I don't know. Well, I kind of do. Since there's really not an x here, what could I make this x term? 0x. That still works, doesn't it? Because this doesn't have an x in it. But I filled in the place value, all right? Just like putting all those zeros in there, I filled it in with a 0. That's kind of what we're doing here. Make sense? Except it's just not in the middle of it like this one is. And then what else? I got x cubed, x squared, x to the first. Now I can put my constant, which is a 2. So that's very important. Sometimes they'll list them all out in order, all right? So if I have like an x to the 6 to begin with, and then I have a constant, I'm going to have to fill in all those place values, all right, with x's. So if I'm missing an x to the 5th, I need to put 0x to the 5th. If I'm missing an x squared, I need to put in what? 0x squared. You with me? All right, so that's important that you do this because I'm going to have to bring all that stuff down, and I need an x to be able to bring down. And there's my x. It's still equal to this, isn't it? Right? It's still the same value, but now we have a place value. Okay, we have a placeholder. It's basically what it is. What do we put out here? X plus 1. Now, here's what we do. It's very similar. It's not exactly, but it's very similar to this. We say, how many times does this divide into this? But we're not really looking at the 1 here. We're just looking at the x itself, okay? So I want to ask, how many times does x divide into x cubed? How many times does x divide into x cubed? 3 times? What's x cubed divided by x to the first? What's that? X to the second. Got it. Would you agree? X cubed over x is x to the second. So how many times does x divide into x cubed? X to the second times. It's kind of what I did over here, isn't it? I said, how many times? I basically went 10 divided by 8. It's 1 point something, isn't it? Would you agree? All right. That's kind of what's going on here. So it's x cubed divided by x, which is what? X squared. So why is that 1 there? What are we going to do with it? Well, we're going to use it here in a second. Now, what did I do? I'll tell you what. I'm going to put this over here so I don't have to keep on going up and down all the time. So let's put that right there. Let's scoot it over. Can somebody get that door, please? All right. So I'll put it there so we can just kind of look back and forth to it. So I said, how many times does 8 go into 10? 1 time. How many times does x go into x cubed? X squared times, right? Now, what did I do here? I went 8 times what? 8 times 1, right? And then I subtracted. So what do you think I'm going to do here? I'm going to go the whole x plus 1 this time. I'm going to take that whole thing and multiply it by x squared. Then I'm going to what? Subtract. See it? So 8 times 1 minus whatever 8 times 1 is, which is 8, and then I subtract. That's basically what I'm doing here. All right? I'm taking this times this, and I'm going to subtract. I've watched YouTube videos on this from time to time, and nobody ever puts this parentheses there. I think it's super important, okay? I think they should. But that's what I'm doing. I'm putting minus. Now, what do I do with this and this? I multiply. It's a little distributive property, isn't it? Because it's x squared times this whole x plus 1. So what is x squared times x? x what? Cubed. Okay? And then what? Plus x squared times 1, which is x squared. Good. You with me? You guys ever seen this before? You have seen it? Okay. A couple have. Did Mr. Rao do this for you last year? No? When did you see this then? Okay, so he did do it. Is Alua the only one that showed up to Mr. Rao's class last year? Okay, I have a feeling. I have a feeling she might be the only one that shows up to this class. I don't know. So here we go. I'm just kidding. So what do we do here? We went 10 minus 8 is 2, didn't we? So what do we do here? We subtract. X cubed minus x cubed is 0. I don't need to put it there. Then I'm going to do this. Now watch very carefully. You watching? Ella, you watching? Up here. I go negative 1x squared minus what? 1x squared. What's negative 1 minus 1? Negative 1 minus 1? Negative 1 minus 1 is what? Negative 2. Negative 2 what? X squared. Okay? That's what I did right here. I went what? 8 times, or let's see, I brought this down and I said, how many times did we get there yet? Yeah, I just subtracted. 10 minus 8 is 2. All right, that's basically where we're at right now. Okay, then what did I do after I put a 2 here? Brought down the next value, didn't I? Okay, so what am I going to do here? Bring down the next value. Everybody see that? What's my next value? It's a 0x. You see why I needed an x there? Okay, you'll see in a second. And kind of after this step is over, you'll see why that x was important. So now we do the same thing over again. We say, how many times does x divide into this one right here? Because we said, how many times does 8 go into 20, correct? It's the same thing here. How many times does x divide into, and I'll put it out here so we can see it, how many times does it go into negative x squared? What is that? Negative 2x squared divided by x. What's that? Negative 2x. Right. Negative 2x. So, how many times does x go into negative 2x squared? Negative what? 2x times. It's like this. How many times does 8 go into 20? Twice. Put the 2 right there. Do you see the correlation between the two? All right. So now, what do we do after we put that 2 up there? We went what? 2 times 8, which is 16. We put it here. We subtracted. That's what we're going to do here. So now I'm going to go, I know I'm going to subtract, so I'm going to put my parentheses and a minus right there. Now I go, it's a negative 2x, right? So what's negative 2x times x? Negative 2x squared. And then negative 2x times positive 1, which is negative 2x. You writing this down? Jimmy's writing it down, aren't you, Jimmy? Or no, not Jimmy. Anthony. You writing all this down? Yeah, sure you are. How do you expect to know how to do this if you're not even going to look up at me at the screen? I don't know. All right. Yeah, watch the video. Sure, you will. I don't know why you won't just watch it right now. But anyway, I'll shut up. Let's keep going. So what do we got? Negative 2x minus negative. What's minus a negative? It's positive. So negative 2x plus 2x is 0, right? Let's do this one. 0 minus negative 2x. Minus negative is positive. 0 plus 2x. What's 0 plus 2x? It's just 2x. Keep going. What do we do? Bring down the next thing. So that's a plus 2, so we put plus 2. Now we say, how many times does x divide into 2x? How many times does x go into 2x? What is it? 2 times. That's right. The x's cancel. I get a 2. So what do we put up here? Plus 2. And then we multiply and we subtract. Let's do it. I like to put the subtraction first, and then we do it. What's 2 times x? 2x. Positive 2 times positive 1, plus 2. Look what we get. 2x minus 2x is 0. 2 minus 2 is 0. So what's my remainder? Remainder is 0. Having a remainder of 0 in this lesson is super important, okay? So what is the answer to this thing right here? X squared minus 2x plus. That's it. And you can always check. How could I check to see if that's right? I could take the x squared minus 2x plus 2, like right here. How would I check to see if that is right? I would take that, multiply it by 8, and what should it equal? It should equal 1. Okay? This. If I take this and multiply it by the thing on the outside, it should equal the stuff inside the box. All right? You can do it if you want. Just do a little distributive property, and sure enough, it will equal this. All right. You want a better way, though, don't you? Wasn't that horrible? Yes. I could see in the look on your faces. I could also see in the look on your faces you didn't think we were going to do anything because we had that signing. And I know. So watch. Now we're actually going to do the synthetic division. And I only have a minute, but I can still do it. So I'm going to rewrite the problem, including that 0x. Now, watch what I do, okay? What I'm going to do, there's a reason for this, but right here, it's x minus whatever letter you want. Let's call it r, okay? So this thing right here on the outside is x minus r. So what's the r going to be? This is x minus r. You're like, Mr. Herrick, that's not a minus. How do I know that? Well, if I did make it a minus, it's x minus what is the same thing as x plus 1. Look, this thing is written as x minus some number. In this case, it's 1, all right? But is x minus 1 the same thing as x plus 1? As soon as I write it, you're going to see, and you're going to say, oh, I can't believe I didn't see that. So x minus what is the same thing as x plus 1? X minus negative 1. You got it. Would you agree? So what's the r then? The r is a negative 1. So that's the thing that's going to go on the outside. So we write this a little different. I'm not going to do this kind of thing for synthetic division. I've watched YouTube videos on this as well. Some people do it like this. I learned how to do it like this when I first learned how to do it. Some people do it a different way. Some people go like this. All right, but I'm not. I'm going to do it like this. So what you do is whatever you're subtracting from x goes in here. What am I subtracting from x? What? A negative 1, right? Because this is the same thing as x minus negative 1. What am I subtracting right there from x? A negative 1. So what goes right here? A negative 1. You're looking confused. I didn't think that would be the hard part. I thought that would be kind of easy to see. Ask me a question. Nobody? You just don't see it, do you? Do you agree that x minus negative 1 is the same thing as x plus 1? Okay. So what is the thing that you're subtracting? What are you subtracting? A what? A negative 1, right? And that's what goes here. All right? Now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take all my coefficients and I'm going to list them right after this. What's the coefficient of this? It's a 1. What's the coefficient of this? Negative 1. It's not a 1, it's a negative 1. What's the coefficient of this? 0. And then this, you're just going to write down the number. Okay, it's not really a coefficient. Not technically, if it was x to the 0. But anyway, who cares? Let's do this. That's a 1. This is a negative 1. This is what? A 0. And this is a 2. Now watch this. I'm going to put a little line right here. And then I'm going to drop this down to there. Okay, that's how we started off. Watch how nice this is. Instead of doing all this mess right here, watch how nice and clean this is. So you see what I did? I put whatever I'm dividing by, all right? It's x minus whatever that number is, so it's x minus negative 1. Put the coefficients here, drop this down. Now watch what we do. I multiply. It's kind of like we did here. We multiply, but instead of subtracting, we're going to add. I'll show you. So we multiply. What's negative 1 times 1? So I'm multiplying this one times this one. That's negative 1, correct? And I'm going to put that negative 1 here, and I'm just going to add these columns. What's negative 1 plus negative 1? Negative what? Negative 2, okay? Let's repeat the process. That's basically it right there, what I just did. You just got to keep doing it as long as your thing goes out. So now let's do the same thing. What am I multiplying? Negative 1 times negative 2, right? Negative 1 times negative 2, which is Nobody's answering me today. Why not? What's negative 1 times negative 2? It's positive 2. Somebody talk to me like I know you're alive, okay? Come on. Getting a little frustrated. I want some response here. Everybody's just staring off into space. So we add these up. What do we get? We get 2. 0 plus 2 is 2. Let's do it again. One more thing. What do we do? Negative 1 times 2. Thank you. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Put it right here. What do we do with these? Add them up. What do we get? We get 0. So 0, don't leave if the bell rings. 0 is my remainder. The 2 is my constant. The negative 2 is the x. And the 1 is the what? Is the x squared. So check this out. What do we get? We get 1x squared. Talk to me.
Negative 2x.
Minus 2x, right here. That's my constant. Plus 2, and a 0 remainder. And that is my answer. Look how nice and clean that is compared to this.
That's synthetic division.
This is synthetic division. Much, much nicer. Would you agree? All right. I'm not going to give you any homework tonight. I probably should. Tell you what, if you wanted to look at that lesson, which is 4-3, just find the ones where all you do is divide. Listen, guys, listen. Guys, you didn't listen to me one time, so hush, let me talk. So there are problems where all you have to do is just use synthetic division, okay? I will assign those tomorrow. If you want to get them done tonight, that would probably be in your benefit because I'm going to give you more problems tomorrow, including these. So I don't know which numbers they are, but find the ones that says divide by synthetic division. Get those done, all right? And then I'm going to add to it tomorrow. Got it? Okay. See ya.